welcome to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. You're listening to episode 102, and I'm your host, Susie Botello. There is one thing that most filmmakers, ones I've ever met or heard of, have in common, and it's something that you haven't really heard a lot about. You know what that is? Inspiring filmmakers. That is really at the heart of something that they love to do. And so that's why they share their stories. That's why they share their techniques. That's why they share everything they know with people everywhere. Our guest today in this episode is Levi Austin Morris. Now, Levi is in LA. And we met Levi back in 2015 with a short film that he submitted to our International Mobile Film Festival here in San Diego. But then he came back in 2020, literally 5 years later, submitted another film, another short film. And we've stayed in touch. He's participated in mobile film stories. But what really is really cool about this is that we started asking Levi, to share about his past experience and his film. And then we started talking about how he's making that film happen. Now, I'm not just talking about, how he's getting people together because, man, it takes a village to make a feature-length film. But how he's getting that film funded, how creatively he's doing it, and with the participation of his family, meaning his crew, and he's making it happen in a really impressive way. Now, we're going to be sharing some links in the notes, but remember, if your player is not displaying the notes, you can always go to sbppodcast.studio and get them there for this episode. Ready to go? Let's go talk to Levi. Hey, well, here I am in the City of Angels. Well, I'm not here, but our guest is there, hanging with the angels. In LA, California, is Levi Austin Morris. Hi, Levi.
Hi, Susie.
Nice to see you. Well,
hear me.
Nice to chat with you.
Yes.
Hey, so we got to talk about this film that you guys are making.
Yeah.
I want to share with our listeners first that we met Levi back in, I think it was in 2015, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or 16?
I think it was 2015.
Okay. He made a little film, and it was in our film festival.
You were the first festival, I think, that I'd ever got accepted into.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, actually.
I think so. Well, I think that's awesome because a lot of people from our film festivals, we were like the first.
Yeah.
And sometimes in this podcast, it's like, oh, this is the first podcast as well. So we're people's first.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's exciting. You're like the introduction, I guess, into the industry.
Yeah. Right. But then you came back.
Sure did.
You did, and that was 2020. You meant to come back even before, but then things happened. But then in 2020, during the pandemic, of course.
Yeah.
What a letdown that was.
Oh,
you had it all squared out to come here.
Yeah, we were excited. And it was a little disappointing that I feel like the pandemic shut everything down. But yeah, my crew and I were really excited to actually get to attend the festival because I didn't get to in 2015. So
yeah, and we're like next door.
Yeah.
But as soon as this thing opens up, we're gonna meet in person.
Absolutely.
Much more than once.
Yeah.
So then that happened, and the film that you submitted last year. What was the name of the film again from the year before? It was pretty cool
For
too.
which one? 2015?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the end of the world one.
Yeah, it was 90 Seconds to Live. And it
That's right.
was, yeah, I mean, for that one, I had just started iPhone filmmaking. I think I made one other really small short before that one. But 90 Seconds to Live was the first one that I started to submit to things. And yeah, it was my boyfriend and I, and it was, the idea was like, if we knew that a bomb was dropping, how would we spend our last 90 seconds? And so it was like us rushing to get to each other. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was shot really, really well. It was a really neat way to tell that story.
Yeah, we shot it from the perspective of my character. So like it was handheld. You could see my arms and you could see my feet. But that's it. And then
We never.
whatever
Are
I
you
saw.
sure that was you though?
What was that? What was that?
I'm like, are you sure that was you though?
It was actually. But
It was, but
yeah.
actually it had that thing, like the timeline, right, where you're having the memory of him and what he was doing.
Yeah, so like
You
you'd
know,
see me with my boyfriend, and so you'd, yeah, that you like you saw flashbacks of like the memories that I was having in that last 90 seconds, and then it would flash forward to like me running trying to get to him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Let's not give it away because
yeah. I did give quite a bit away.
you don't
Sorry,
want TriStar Entertainment to come out.
that's true. Steal my idea.
um, but that was, and then you made the tea, and the
Yes,
tea was a period piece.
yes. Um,
Talk a little bit about that one too.
Sure. So my background is I'm like a theater nerd. Like I grew up loving uh theater. I was a theater major. Like I love classical theater. I love Shakespeare. And so I've always been attracted to period pieces. And the movie The Favorite came out a few years ago, and I loved everything about it, from the cinematography to the tone to the comedy. And it, like, I was really inspired by that world, and I thought, you know what, I love to make films on my phone, so I would love to do the challenge of doing a period piece on my phone and see if we can pull this off. And so yeah, I wrote a script. It was inspired by, actually, Moliere, who's one of my favorite playwrights. He had a scene with a couple. It was a heterosexual couple. But I really loved the back and forth of those characters, and so it was inspired by the relationship of those characters. But like the script is completely my own, and I invented two other completely like new characters that didn't exist in the Moliere piece. Um, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, it was I feel like it was honestly my most successful film thus far, as far as like festivals and just how I felt about it. Like I felt really confident in that film.
And that's hard to do because, whenever, as an artist, whenever you create something, it's never really quite like you envision. It's never enough. It's never
Oh,
good enough,
absolutely.
so.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I look back at the footage, while I'm editing, in the editing process, I am the worst critic. And like the people who work on the film with me, they're like, "How's the editing going?" And I'm like, "I don't know if this one's gonna work out." So and that's just me being my own worst critic of I would have done this different. I would have shot this different. I wish we hadn't combined those shots. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and so I try to keep to myself,
Yeah.
because otherwise everybody else around me is gonna freak out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, she started this project and there's no way it's gonna happen because she thinks so.
Yeah.
So now here we are, and it's 2021, new year,
Yeah.
new film.
New
And
film.
one of the things that I'm really impressed with now, you're doing, did you do Kickstarter or anything like that? Any campaign funding for the previous film?
Not for the T or for the other. I have done a Kickstarter for a film that was not an iPhone film.
Mm,
But that was something I shot actually in 2015 as well. Right
mm.
after we submitted 90 Seconds to Live, we started working on another project, and we did a Kickstarter for that.
Well, let's share with our listeners a little more about you.
Sure.
Levi.
Sure.
Like, what got you? A little bit of your history and what got you interested. Because I like to share these things with our listeners. I think it's important for them to get to know you because they may see a connection
Sure.
with themselves as well. So
Absolutely. I mean, I'm Levi. I'm from Minnesota. I am the youngest of 6 kids. So I had a very large family growing up. Um, I grew up in an incredibly small town. There were less than 2,000 people in my hometown. Uh, there were cool things about that, but also like when you're a gay kid in a small town and like I my family life was not this I'm trying to think of the wording, was not like the healthiest, I guess. And so like theater for me ended up becoming sort of an escape from home. Because my dad was an alcoholic and a meth addict. And so yeah, so like I used theater as an outlet and an escape, and it ended up becoming a place where I found a community and I felt incredibly safe. And my mother's also an artist, and she was very encouraging of me to explore the arts. And so when I graduated high school, I decided I had a friend actually I had multiple friends who were really encouraging of me to go to college because nobody in my family has gone to college. So through their support and like my mom's support as well, and like I had some I like a couple siblings I'm very close with were like, yes, go after your dreams, you know. And so I was the first kid in my family to, and as the youngest, it was a big deal to me that I attended and graduated college as a theater major, and I loved it. And then I worked in Minneapolis I lived in Minneapolis for 5 years doing theater there, both acting, writing, and directing. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go somewhere warm because I cannot stand the winter. So I ended up in LA. And I've lived in LA since the end of 2011. And yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. I've uh, co-founded production companies. I'm constantly creating new work and self-producing work with the people that I have. It took some time. It takes time to build a network, but I've definitely been incredibly fortunate and appreciative to have met artists who are like me, in that like we care about the work that we're creating. It's not like let's just create, crap to put out. Like let's tell a story that means something to us. And so yeah, we create films and sketch comedy, and here we are. Yeah. So
wow, that's
yeah.
really interesting. There's so many questions that I have. One of them that I'm thinking,
Uh-huh.
I try to think, I try to listen like one of our listeners, and I'm thinking, this conversation will go around the world. And I know people in San Diego from my past that have gone to LA saying, that's it, I'm so good at this. I can
Mm,
go to LA and I'm going to be Hollywood. And
sure.
then they go away for like 9 months and then they come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how was that? How was that? Because it is a journey.
Oh, it
and
is.
and sometimes you go there with the highest expectations.
Yeah.
But you're either going to give it up or you're not.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be tough, especially in the beginning. LA is huge, and there are a lot of people out there chasing their dream.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Sure. I mean, I guess like I will say like, because I mentioned the family I grew up in a bit. Um I had the both misfortune and fortune of growing up in an incredibly poor family. So it was not a huge adjustment for me to come to LA and be, like because I think for a lot of people they leave sort of the luxury of their homes in the Midwest or wherever they're coming from, and the support of their family. And they come in, it's like, wow, I live in a shoebox and I have to work insane hours just to pay my rent. And how am I going to be, chasing my dream as well, and for me it was that there was no other option. Like I recognize, and I've recognized it since I was old enough to recognize that this is how I want to spend my life, that there is no other option for me. And I would not be happy doing any other job. And so like it was just, it was a struggle, but it was a necessary struggle in order to be able to do what I want to do. And so yeah, like for a while, like there were periods where in LA at the beginning I worked 2 or 3 jobs. Like I had one job, I would get off at 2 a.m. I'd take the bus home because I didn't have a car. I'd get home at 4 a.m. I'd sleep until 7. I'd go to my next job. I'd take a nap in between, and then I'd go back to the other job.
Oh,
And so like there was a period and it was miserable. But like I was able to pay my bills at that moment. And it was, and then I worked my way up into a new position, or I left for a job that I realized, well, they don't pay enough. I'm gonna go find some place that pays more. Um and I think part of it is being stubborn. I think part of it is my incredible drive, because that is something that I will say I have, is like I am driven for what I love. And I think part of it is my eternal optimism of like, this is what I want to do with my life and it's going to work out. So yeah. um I think all of those things have contributed, and I think there have been happy accidents along the way as well, where like I've met people who are incredible, who have been supportive, or and I don't mean like paying my bills, because I never had anything like that, but like just like supportive and recognize my dream, and so they're emotionally there, or like when I'm feeling down.
yeah, the emotional support I think is more helpful than
Then
anything else.
absolutely, especially in LA, because this is without a doubt like, I will say I have a lot of people that I enjoy creating with. Like I've created a network and a community here that I love, but I do think that in this city there are a lot of people who, like, they're just looking out for themselves and if you'll help them in their career. And so I do actually steer clear of them, like if I sense that that is their energy, and I'm just like, I don't really want to, like, they're like, "Oh, will you write a part for me in your next project?" And I'm just like, "Well, we'll see."
Yeah, it's a, following your dream is a very emotional journey. And
Yeah.
it's a roller coaster ride. And there are times when things are going great and you feel like, oh, things are turning for me. And then, something falls in the middle of everything. So, yeah, so having that emotional support. And that's a great segue to this family that you have built, that you are
Yeah.
connected to. And you all have, everyone's an actor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said it best when you said family. Like, there's a chosen
Mhm.
family aspect of that I've found, and in LA. And yeah, everybody here that I work with is either an actor or producer, or something in the arts. Like I have a friend who's a composer. So like, yeah, we all found each other, and we just,
And you've been working with these guys since 2015, right?
Some of them, yes.
Most of
So
them?
most of them, I would say, yeah. I've been working since 2015 on the new project. There is a producer who is brand new to us, but she is amazing, and like all of us are in love with her and are like, yeah, okay, she's in the group. Like she's going to be involved in many projects in the future. Like she's incredible, and so we're incredibly grateful for her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And so, okay, so now you decided to write, you wrote it, right? The
yeah,
screenplay?
I did. Yes,
All right, now tell us a little bit about that. Let's see if we
sure,
can inspire somebody to write a screenplay first before they start
absolutely.
shooting.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, COVID happened 2020. It was a difficult year for everybody, like around the world. Like we all lost somebody, or we all started to feel disconnected, and I was struggling because like I said earlier, at my core, this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to spend my life. And so I was really struggling emotionally with being separated from my chosen family, being separated from like the arts, and being creative, and I was trying to basically find an outlet for myself. And I realized that like this feeling of isolation that I had, I wanted to use that and channel that into something. And so like I spoke to one of my very good friends who's been in multiple projects, including the T, Allison. She was the Colette character in the T. Um, and I was like, I really want to do this project. Are you interested in doing this with me?
When you said Colette, that was the one who played the sister, right? In the
Yes.
T?
Yep. It was the blonde girl who played the
Yeah.
sister. And so yeah, sorry, was there more to the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Oh yeah. So it was the blonde girl in the T, and she played the sister. But I asked her if she was interested in doing a project together, and she was like, sure, because she's always down to play. And when I started writing it, all I knew was that I wanted to focus on how I was feeling, the feeling of being isolated. And I was really, really focused on that because it was like, we've all been going through this for however many months now. And I'm somebody who's incredibly inspired by music. So like sometimes I will literally just go and I did during COVID, I'd put on my mask, I'd put in my headphones and I'd go for walks for hours, listening to music, trying to find something that made me feel that feeling of isolation that I was trying to latch onto. Um, and eventually I came across a song by Sarah Bareilles, who is one of my favorite singers, called, I think it's called Simple and True or Simple and Plain, one of those two titles. And it's a really haunting melody. And like I didn't even pay attention to the lyrics, it was just the melody, and there's a lot of dissonant chords. And so I latched onto that and I listened to that thing on repeat so much while I came up with the story in my head. And before, like usually I'm somebody that outlines everything out as I'm thinking of it. But in this particular project, I was latching onto the story in my head before I even started outlining it. And once I knew where the story was going, that's when I sat down to do the outline. And once I had a solid outline, and I will say this process started probably at the end of October, and it took me until April to get a final draft. And that's like I think the first draft I
Wow.
finished at the end of January of the script, and then I did some Zoom read throughs with my crew, with my chosen family, and we did some read throughs over Zoom, and I'm very collaborative where I'm like, let's talk about what's working, what's not, like what relationships aren't clear, and like what is nonsense, what is confusing. And so like they give me notes and they're like, well, this didn't work for me, or this is confusing, or like if you want this, like expand on it more. And so like there's a collaborative atmosphere in those read throughs. And then I go back and I take the notes that I want and I ignore the notes that I don't. And I write again, and then we go back and we did it again. And I think we ended up going through 5 read throughs. The script went through 6 drafts, and it was like over a period of 4 months. But that's because this one is not a short film. This is a feature.
Right.
It's the first draft was, I think, 58 pages. The final draft is 96 pages.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so like that was the writing process. And like once it got to the place where like all of us were like, this is it. This is the film. That's when we were like, okay, let's start talking about like what we need. That was sort of my process, because that's like at that point it's me, the director, coming in and going through and like, what do we need as far as budget? What do we need as far as props? What do we need? Like, how many days is this going to take? And all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, we should tell our listeners basically why we're saying it's perfect 96 minutes or like 96 pages is because it's like you figure it's about a minute per page.
Yeah.
Of the film.
Yeah. And with a screenplay, when you write a feature, I think I want to say they're usually between like 80 and 120 pages or something.
Mm-hmm. But 96 is perfect.
Yeah, it is. And like there's a lot of action because it's a horror film. That word has always tripped me up. horror. It's 2 syllables.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of action sequences that it'll probably be, maybe like 100 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because there's always and you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, who knows?
it could be shaved off a little bit, but
yeah, we'll see.
that's why it's a good number either way.
Yeah, because it's right in the
Um,
middle.
Yeah, because it at the worst it's like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And 90 minutes is good for distribution,
Absolutely. Yep.
so
Yeah.
so you wrote. Now most of the people that I talked to, they're writing a screenplay by themselves.
Sure.
You wrote it with a team.
Well, I mean, yes, I wrote it by myself. Because I write down my outline, I write down the story arcs, I write down everything, and then
Yeah.
I write all of it. And then it's sort of like so that was the first, what was that, November to end of January.
Yeah.
And then I come to them with a rough draft and I'm like, let's talk, and so like, yeah, there's definitely that period of editing. I think, and this comes from my theater background, collaborative atmospheres are the most beneficial. There's like on TV, there's writers' rooms. In movies, there's always people, like it goes through many hands. And I certainly am not a proponent of producers coming in and slashing the artist's vision. Like that is something I am 100% against. But I think if you trust somebody enough to ask them, like even if it's just one person, and say, can you read this? Like, can you let me know if anything doesn't make sense? If something's confusing. Just because like it might be clear to you as the person who's writing it, but sometimes like you have more information in your head than is on the page. And so
Yeah, you have intention.
yeah, exactly. And so like getting those outside what's the word I'm looking for?
Perspectives.
Yeah, perspectives. Yeah, thank you. Getting the outside perspective is oftentimes incredibly beneficial because they're coming at it with a clean slate, and they have no idea the world that you're trying to create. And so they're going to have a point of view that might actually help you further your own point of view.
Well, we're going to share with our listeners the link to the trailer, so they'll be able to watch a trailer.
Awesome.
And they'll be on the edge of their seat. I want to talk a little bit about, what it took for you guys to, because you're not in production yet. You are, you're funding. You're in the campaign funding phase.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a tongue twister right now. And I want to share some insights, if you don't mind, with our listeners about that, because I myself think that campaign funding is probably one of the most anxiety-driven processes.
You are not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and the platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also depends. There's Indiegogo, there's Kickstarter, there's the one that you chose.
Yep.
Why don't you share a little bit about how you even went about that? Because, like I said, it's just such a tough thing to even think about being able to just fund your own film.
Yeah. So with this project in particular, it is a feature, and we're lucky enough that the girl, my close friend who is the lead in it, she owns the house that we're filming in, so we don't have to pay for the location. And I mean, I guess, sorry, I will get to the funding, but I will say I didn't even talk about like the like, because it was over COVID, I was very specific about writing it so it was one location, so that we didn't have to, because I didn't know when COVID was going to end. So I wanted to,
yeah, and you don't want to have the landlord have to sign off on the location and all that,
exactly,
right?
yeah. So we so when I was writing the script, I specifically was like, okay, this is taking place in her house, and so like, what story can I tell in her house? And that's sort of where the story of isolation and all of that. Yeah. Anyway, going back to the funding, I apologize. I digress. Yes, with the funding is a nightmare. It is the one thing that I am not yet.
Does it give you paralysis? That's
It
the
gives
name
me
of the film, you
something.
guys. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
looking
Then
for a way
no, to get that.
name the yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Paralysis is the film. Yeah. So it does not give me paralysis, but it gives me anxiety. But I will say, because I have done a Kickstarter in the past, and so I've done a Kickstarter with one project, and then I know people who have done other projects. Did I do Kickstarter or Indiegogo? I think I did Kickstarter. Um, for the film I talked about a while ago. This one was Seed and Spark.
Yeah.
And the reason that I chose Seed and Spark, and the reason that um this is the platform that we're going with, is Seed and Spark is um only for films. It's for films, it's for pilots, it's for web series, or it's for the film industry. Whereas Kickstarter can be for many different things. It can be for films, it can be for kickstarting like an invention, it can be, Seed and Spark is specifically for filmmakers, created by filmmakers. And so one of the really great things, well, I mean, let me rewind for a second. The way that I discovered them is
I
another
was
friend.
hoping to hear the rewind sound.
Um, yeah.
Mhm.
I had another friend that I know through improv classes in LA do a Seed and Spark for a film that he was making. I want to say either just before the pandemic or just at the beginning of the pandemic, and he ended up successfully raising the money, and I contributed to his project as well. But I found, or I was intrigued by the platform because I'd never heard of it, and I went into a deep dive on the internet and researched what it is, and it's for filmmakers by filmmakers. They have incredible resources where they have videos online, which is like crowdfunding 101, and it's like a 12 video basically class. Like they're giving you like a master class in crowdfunding, and there's
Wow.
incredible ideas. There's things you should not do in your crowdfunding. And so like I did a very deep dive on that, and then with my production team, we came together, and like we had a conversation where I was the one who figured out exactly how much the budget was going to need and for production. We're only raising money for production costs right now. And then later on we'll do we'll have a much smaller campaign for the post-production expenses.
Now,
um
what made you make that decision?
that's actually one of the things that Seed and Spark talks about. Is they said, you can do it all in one thing, or you can break it apart. Part of the reason being that um, it's a lot to like try to focus on both of those things at once. So to be able to focus on, this is the money we need for production only. It's also going to be a less intimidating number to the people. Like if I come in and say we need to raise $9,000 for production versus we need to raise $15,000 to $20,000, like that is less intimidating to a potential backer. Like, oh, so my $20 will make a difference, a little more
Right.
than like, um,
That
and real,
makes sense.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I mean it's psychological, but it's also like better, I think, emotionally, and for even the team doing the project,
So
like,
there is a science to it.
yeah, 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 for
Yeah.
sure. And so yeah, so we're raising the production costs only right now. And then after we shoot the film, oh, and I will say I originally had intended for this to be a $10,000 budget, but I went through and I basically figured out ways to cut the cost in a lot of areas.
Hmm.
Um, and so we got it down to 9,000, which doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but when it is funding for a film, that's a huge difference. Um, just because, like, that I don't know.
I'm nodding. You can't see me, but
Yeah,
I'm nodding.
she's
Yes.
nodding,
Yes.
everybody. Yeah, it is. It can be intimidating, but like going in prepared, and I think that that's one of the things that, like, I think that the Seed and Spark sort of class that they have online was incredibly helpful in that way. Like I built my team, we built the social media ahead of time before we even launched the campaign. And that was to sort of get interest out there, like this is a project that we're working on. It's about sleep paralysis and and trauma and grief and isolation. And so like we're starting to, and it's a horror film, and so that starts to sort of draw in that kind of audience.
Well, you did great on that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because so you built I follow Levi, probably a lot of our listeners as well, on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And you came out of nowhere. It's like paralysis is following you. And I'm like, oh, I'll follow paralysis back. But I didn't know it was you.
Yeah. And then one day you saw my picture pop up.
Yes. And I'm also looking at the numbers, because you really just started that. I think it was like last month, wasn't it?
No, we started in April. So we've been going for a little while. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's nothing. And all of a sudden now you've grown that quite a bit. You've got quite a lot of every day I don't even know how you're going to do anything, because just the social media part.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're creating content for that. Share a little bit of how you're making that work. Sure. It's mainly on Instagram that's really popping, right?
Yeah. We have the Facebook. The Facebook we started later. I started with just Instagram. There's a huge horror community. And so like one of the things that I did is I went through and I followed a bunch of other horror films. I followed a bunch of small indie horror people who are like horror fans. And like they have sort of like these fan pages devoted to horror films. And I engage with them, like I comment on their content. I feel like I've been spending more time on the paralysis page than my personal page. And that's fine. Like it's
important.
It is. Yeah. So like it's building that audience. But yeah, like one of the things is like we've been thinking about like interesting content, like what besides talking about our film do people want to see, And so for a while at the beginning, when we didn't have content about our film other than we have this script and we're going to be going into production, we were sharing like just fun facts about horror films, or we were sharing fun facts about sleep paralysis, or like or memes where they were poking fun at people's various sleep paralysis demons. And so like it was just it ended up becoming this sort of fun thing to engage with our audience, with the people.
And now you're doing something with the people who are funding them, where you're how should I say, you're
choose your own adventure.
You gamifying.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we started the campaign, and it's a 30-day campaign. And one of the ways we were like, how can we keep people interested during the campaign so that they're not just like, sure, I'll contribute and then I'll go away. Was like, how can it be fun? How can, and so we are doing something. It's a choose your own adventure horror story. It has no connection to our film. It's just part of the campaign, but it's a fun thing that like we within the team, like I'll write a chapter and then we're just recording voice memos and creating like fun little images out of stock photos and stuff. So it like tells the story as we tell you the chapter. And then you as the audience get to choose what you want the character to do next. And so based on your votes, the next person in our team writes the next chapter. So I've only written 2 of the chapters and we are on our 5th chapter right now. Nice. And then other members of my team have written the other chapters, but it's really fun. And honestly, even other members of my team are more excited about the choose your own adventure right now than they are about the film, just because it's so fun. It's such a sort of like electric energy that like, because it's like the instant results of like you, the audience, are telling us, oh, I want the character to do this,
because it takes a village to make a feature mobile film.
Oh,
right?
It does. Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to title this podcast.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah. But it's been fun. It's been really fun. And like at first people were really hesitant to comment on those videos and say what they want the character to do. But we're on to our 5th chapter now. And people are like, have her do this. No, she should do this. And there's like discussion in the thread. So it's
But you
becoming this
already
fun
had
thing.
you already had the screenplay,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. So this again, like the short choose your own adventure story is not actually connected to the story of our script.
Okay,
The
it's just a
screen,
side thing.
yeah, the screenplay is a completely different story. And it's just it's I mean, we can certainly talk about that too if you want.
Well, because I think, I don't know, if I were you, I mean,
Yeah.
that could be another screenplay for,
Oh, a future
as a
film.
reward.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually a joke that one of the guys in the group actually made as well. He's like, "What if this story ends up being so good that we have to make this movie?" I was like, "All right." So,
Well,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
I
maybe.
mean,
Yeah. It's already gone far beyond the $9,000 budget of our current film, though. So, like,
Yeah,
all
wow.
the twists and turns of this story.
So you put together a budget. You had to look at every little detail of what you needed.
Yes.
And so obviously, for our listeners, you do want to get some people involved in that because you'll miss something. It's like if you go alone to the grocery store
Yeah.
and you're at all like me, you come home without the butter.
Yeah.
Which is what you really needed.
Yeah, it's the one thing you went for.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you were putting this thing together, what were the basic things?
Sure.
I'm trying to help our listeners
Absolutely. Like,
to plan their own feature
project.
films
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the first thing I started with was I got a little overwhelmed at first. So I did pass it off to another member of my team just because I just finished writing a 96-page script. So I was like, "Ooh, this is a lot."
You're
I
like,
don't
I
even
need
know,
a nap.
Yeah. So I passed it off to actually Allison, she's the girl who played Colette and she's the lead of my film. I passed it off to her and I said, "Will you go through and write down all of the props that are used throughout the entire script, the scenes that they're in, the actors that are in those scenes, and just so we can get an idea of budget and if there's like special effects makeup needed, so that because we are hiring a professional makeup artist for this project."
You should, yeah.
Yeah, and so so she went through and she did that, and then I went through again after she did and added things that she missed. So there were multiple sets of eyes on the script, checking the budget, and then I sent it off to my producer, and she said, "Yeah, that looks good," and then we so I mean, just to I guess let the listeners know, like you're looking for props, you're looking for actors, the amount of actors in the scene, any special effects, makeup, locations,
Wardrobe.
wardrobe, exactly. Your meals, because like a film that's 96 pages long, you're not going to film that over one day or even two. Like this is where our goal is to shoot 5 to 6 pages per day. And that's going to be like a 15 to 16
Yeah,
day
let's
shoot.
do this really quick too.
Sure.
Because so earlier I said it's like a page a minute. Somebody out there is probably going, "Oh, it only takes 5 minutes to shoot 5 pages."
Oh, funny. Yeah. So going off of what Susie's saying, yeah, like 5 pages takes a long time to film because for me, and it's different for every director, I
Yeah.
storyboard my entire script before we even go into production. And I've been doing this for a while. I have my script, I storyboard the shots out that I want. So I have my storyboard, and then from my storyboard I make a shot list of like, well, this is a wide, this is a medium, this is a close up, this is a macro. And that's just like the specific shots that I've already done the work for. I've already done the storyboard. I already have the puzzle pieces to then go ahead and shoot the film. But in order to do that, when I actually get to set to shoot the film, it's like, okay, we have to shoot the wide and we have to shoot it multiple times, like until the rhythm is right, until all of it is right, until there's no lighting issues or sound issues, and then we're going to move on to the next angle for the same scene. And so like it takes a long time because you're basically trying to get the shot right, the sound right. There's so many things that you're balancing. that it's not an instantaneous thing.
Yeah. Are you shooting in well, they're not. There's daytime scenes too, right?
Yeah, so it's daytime and nighttime. So yeah, I mean for the you're lucky with the daytime because you already have that light source.
Yeah, but that moves around with the sun.
Exactly, it moves, and so for us, we're diffusing a lot of that light because it makes it softer, and it's less, like, the shadows are less harsh, and it's less difficult, or it's less, I guess, difficult. The audience doesn't really notice what time of day it is when you're diffusing, and so like, but yeah, it is difficult. Like, actually, going back to the tea, that we actually had 1 day to shoot a 9-page script at at this location, and we ended up shooting late into the night, and we had to set up our lights to try and fake sunlight, and that, like we were talking about it earlier, that film was the film that I kept looking at. I'm like, these shots don't match up. This looks terrible. And I kept being so paranoid about, like, the light not matching. But in the end, nobody really noticed and nobody really cared. So we faked the sunlight, but that is a difficult thing to do, and I would not recommend it for anybody. So
yeah, it did have a golden look about it, which is like what period pieces usually do.
Yeah, and I really embraced that golden because I was like, it's gonna hide the flaws. So
yeah. And as far as lighting is concerned, like, I remember shooting sunset dinners at a restaurant, right? At 5 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I've done that too. Yeah, because it's you still get sort of that golden hour. It's just at a different time of day, So yeah.
Unless you look at your watch, really, right? Unless you look at the time, you don't really know the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so you've got did we run through everything that you need for the most part?
I mean, you mean as far as the film?
No, we got more to go for that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what? For the items that you need to budget for.
Oh, I mean,
I think we were talking about meals, and then we got hung up on the time that it took and why you need meals. And this is separate from craft services, you guys.
Yeah,
craft services is a whole different animal.
And I'm gonna be honest, our craft services is gonna be so small. like
yeah, well, you just need the basics.
Yeah, exactly. Like we'll have some fruit, maybe some fruit snacks, cheese and crackers, like water.
You gotta have red vines.
Ooh, okay.
I've never worked on a film set without red vines.
All right, we will have.
There's something really cool about that too.
What?
You put it in your mouth, and your hands are free.
Yeah.
And you can keep chewing up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So you can be working while chewing on a red vine. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, like, I mean, and so, I mean, we've budgeted for meals. I'm trying to think what else is in there. I mean, because this is a 16-day shoot, I have budgeted, this is the first time I've actually done this. I've budgeted to give embarrassingly small stipends to the people who are working on the project. And it's just because, like, they're giving up 16 days. So, like, if I am able to throw them like $100, that is better than, like, than nothing. Because, like, at least I'm replacing the gas that it took for them to drive there,
Are you doing this 6 days a week or 5?
It might be 7. We will see.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, because I worked on a film and it was literally 16 days, but we now everybody got the weekends off.
Sure.
But I, as a production coordinator, had to work 6 days. Which was fine anyways, because like, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah. And I do recognize we will need that 1 day off, especially to re-energize, among other things. But also for, like, planning, like, cause things always come up and you have to shift things around. So yeah, it's likely going to be a 6-day-a-week shoot. And
I feel like I'm being your advisor here
on
the podcast.
My mentor, like,
gotta have the red vines and 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you pretty much covered basically all you need. You got your gear. Now for mobile filmmaking, How are you? Are you getting any help with the gear from any of the apps or the
So
you
I
know?
use Filmic Pro.
Yeah,
I've been using Filmic Pro since it was like $1.99.
I used it when it was free
Oh, oh, and
back in the
I like
beginning.
now I like my friends actually joke around and they're like they should be paying you for the amount of times that you tell people about Filmic Pro. Because honestly, like it gives you so much flexibility with the camera on your phone.
Yeah,
Like with focus, like I can rack focus, which if you don't know what that means, listeners, it's when like let's say my subject is acting and she's in focus in the front, and then and this exists in a lot of films, she's in
yeah.
focus in the front and then something moves behind her and the focus shifts to the thing behind her. Now she's out of focus, but the thing behind her is in focus.
And you
um
can do that as an effect in post production
yeah,
too.
yes, you can. Yes. But it's also something that is in the app that like you can in the manual settings, you can set a timer on there so it racks the focus for you, and it's like it elevates your the cinematography.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, so I use Filmic Pro for apps, and that I get to control the lighting and the ISO and the focus and everything, and the frame rate and all of that. We do separate sound. We have a Zoom
Good
recorder
for
as
you.
yeah, just because like
No, you're making a feature. You gotta.
yeah. And
It's a narrative film.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean that we've had that for a little while because we have the sketch comedy group as well. And so like we recognized if we're going to be doing this a lot, like let's get the best sound we can get. So we do have a Zoom with one of the things we actually have to purchase is a better microphone because what we have is not great.
So
Um
so you have to purchase it. So I can recommend you something. The brand that I like the best. They don't pay me. This is from way before when. I like Audio Technica and I like their shotgun mics.
okay, that's actually so I was like cuz we already have these things in the budget, like but I think that's actually the one that we put in our budget because I was looking at all the reviews and I think that was the one that had very good reviews, so
Yeah.
so that is in our budget actually.
Yeah,
uh
Audio Technica, even their cheapest microphones still sound better than some of the other
cool,
brands.
cool, awesome.
So
Yeah, yeah, so we're getting
Audio
some.
Technica.
Hey, Audio Technica. Sponsor, maybe sponsor.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
What else did you are you adding lens? First of all, what phone are you using?
So I during COVID just upgraded to I have the iPhone 11 Pro. So I
Nice.
have the one with the three lenses, the telephoto, the wide, and the or not. I don't think it's a telephoto. It's the wide, the close, the like it's a close up lens, and then
Macro.
just the yeah, and then just the regular angle lens, or there's like an ultra wide. Anyway, sorry, I'm not selling the iPhone 11 Pro very well.
No, you're just
Um,
spoiled now, right?
yeah. Oh, I have the 11. Yeah,
What
no.
did you shoot the T with? Was it
I th-
I don't
I
remember.
think that one was a 6S.
I thought so, but I
Yeah,
didn't want to,
yeah. I just graduated, so actually I used that 6S until it was dead.
Mhm.
And then one of my friends actually gave me their old iPhone 8. And I had that one for about a year, and then I was finally able to upgrade to the 11 Pro. So we're shooting Paralysis with actually two. We're shooting it with that one, and then my friend just purchased the 12 Pro. Um,
Nice.
and so he's my AD. He was also the AD on the T. Uh, so we sometimes label him as the DP, but like that's a shared responsibility that we both do. Like if I'm not in a scene, I'm the DP. If I am in the scene, he's the DP. Um,
Also, I was going to ask you that at some point. Are you acting in it?
oh yeah. I am very much an actor, a director, and a writer. Like I love all three, and that's not something that I think I will ever be able to give up. I definitely know that some people would prefer I go down one avenue, but I like very much love all of it. So I'm not going to stop. And so in this project, Allison is my friend Allison, she is playing the lead. She's the character who is suffering from sleep paralysis,
Mhm.
and has this entity that's visiting her in the night. But you find out that, and I'm not revealing anything, but you find out through the story that her paralysis is actually connected to something else in her life. And I play her brother. So like we're in her house. My character lives in her house with her. Um because of hard times that I've fallen on. And it's a non-linear film, so like you'll get flashbacks, you'll get dreams, and you'll get the present day, but you'll know where you are in the
Yeah,
story.
because you're going to use the transitions
Yeah,
while you're editing too,
absolutely. Yeah, I
which
mean, yeah, you
is
saw that
yeah,
in the teaser as well. Like you can
yeah,
tell when it's not uh real and when it is. But yeah, so I'm playing her brother in that film. So when I am acting, Emerson is my friend who shares that responsibility with me. He will be the DP, and when I am not acting, he will be my AD. So
pretty good. Yeah, just one of the benefits, one of the reasons why I want to push this to more people, that if you're an actor, don't just shoot your auditions with the phone.
oh
Start
yeah,
shooting,
your films,
movies. And
absolutely. And
well,
that's
the other thing that I wanted to say about that, I'm sorry, is that actors are on film sets. There's no way you're not absorbing
yeah,
anything from that.
yep. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, pay attention, like, for me anyway, because I know like, I have friends that, like, this is not their passion. They don't wanna be self-producing. But for me, like, when I'm on a film set, I'm like, even when it's, like, something I auditioned for or something else, like, I am paying attention to what everybody is doing so that I can understand the various positions, you know? We have an incredibly small crew, but, like, and we're all balancing multiple hats, but, like, it's important to us, like, we want to be creating content. We wanna be telling stories, and we're not gonna wait for permission to do that, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. You also get to cast yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get
And
more practice.
absolutely, in whatever role you want, you know? And so, like, for this one, most of the time, well, I guess not most of the time, but, like, a lot of the time when I write a project, it leans towards comedy. Um, this is not a comedy. This film is not a comedy. This is a psychological horror with family drama elements, and it's like, I've described it as sort of being a hybrid of Hereditary with the Haunting of Hill House series and the Babadook. Um,
Wow.
I mean, I hope to live up to that. I don't want to, like,
Yeah, the Babadook was a big hit. You're right there. There's a when it comes to genres, being genuine to the genre, right? Because
yeah.
when people go to see a horror film, right? I mean, you can throw a little bit of,
I mean, there's some,
reality humor
yeah.
in there, but most people when they go to see a horror film, they want to be scared,
Yes. Yeah. I
and
mean,
they expect that.
absolutely. If you go to a horror film, unless it's like a horror comedy where the
Right.
intent is to go and laugh at, like The Babysitter from 2017 is a very funny movie, but it's not
Yeah.
scary. Like, you
Yeah.
went for the entertainment of it. Whereas, like, this film, it is intended to, like, to unnerve you and startle you and scare you, and like, also
It's
because
brutal, you guys. It's brutal.
you're gonna leave the theater sweating.
Well,
Yeah.
you have the cinematography going
Thank
for
you.
you, and I think the size of the phone. You shared some pictures where you are literally on the bed with
Oh,
your
I'm
actor
right
doing a
up in
close
her
up.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is very hard to do with a
Yeah.
big camera without knocking somebody's teeth out,
Oh,
literally.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the mobility of the phone is actually one of my favorite things about mobile filmmaking, because like, you don't have the cumbersome big camera. You can literally, like, set up a shot in, a couple of minutes versus all of the work to move the camera, and, like, when it's a massive, red, or, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's nice to, I love the I I mean, I've been a proponent of iPhone filmmaking since 2014 when I first started making them. And I remember my friends being like, well, that's never going to be a thing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm still going to do it because I want to, you know? And here I am in 2021. And here are also directors like Sean Baker and Steven Soderbergh who are making these massive movies on the iPhone. So like,
And you've got the International Mobile Film Festival right here in San Diego next
yeah,
door.
and that is where I started. So I'm very happy with that, you know, like, yeah. And that's where, you know, I'll continue to come back to. So
Well, I do have an interest in, I think since you came on board more often than not, which is it's ironic. I think also, maybe I'll get your opinion on this. Let me
okay.
ask you. Because of the pandemic, right? I got to meet more in through our festivals, right? More people from LA making movies with their phone than ever before.
Okay.
And I did not have that much experience with that before. We get a lot of people internationally. We still get that,
Okay.
but just not that many from, from LA. Yeah. And so since 2020, we started getting more, and definitely in 2021, there were more filmmakers from LA, from
Good.
the LA area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the pandemic, that maybe people, just said, screw it. I'm
Yeah.
going to shoot something with my phone.
I think it's probably a little bit of that. Absolutely. The being in isolation and like, what can I do? But also, I think it also is like the quality of the camera on the phone is insane now. Like, even if I didn't have the 11, like I was happy with the 6. Like the 6S was honestly
I
my
love that one.
favorite thing to shoot on so far.
It's the last one with a headphone jack, by the way.
And that is my biggest complaint, is that Apple is monopolizing off of like forcing us to buy new things, and that really bothers me.
I know, little gadgets, like we don't have enough already, right?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think the quality of the camera is improving constantly, and even looking at like something I shot on the iPhone 6S, the camera quality is better than some of the nice cameras from 30 years ago. I can look at my footage and be like, that looks better, and so like with the constant evolution of that, and with the pandemic, I think that people are just like, I also think that it's kind of an artistic renaissance right now. Like I feel like the pandemic is sort of forcing people to recognize that like, this isn't what I want to do with my life, like the things that I want to do with my life are artistic, or are family focused, or are like, I think that people are really taking a step back and recognizing that like there are things that I want to do, and now is the time. I think our morality is on our mind. Mortality. Screw the morality. No, our mortality is on our mind, and I think that we're all just like, I want to do what makes me happy.
Well, and the other thing too, I think storytelling has been, I mean, the stories that came out of 2020,
Oh yeah,
and everything, it's just
and
been building.
yeah,
And we know we have, between social media and then the pandemic and the mortality as
yeah,
well, because screw the morality.
yeah. Screw the morality. That's out the window.
But because of those three things, I think people are realizing that you can still put time and effort into making a film with a mobile phone
Absolutely.
and still cut your time down quite a bit compared to
using a much larger camera. Yeah, absolutely.
and the resources.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I will say, like, we do. So, I mean, and this is to sort of finish the question that you asked a little while ago.
Yeah.
We do also have lenses and stuff. So like Moment has some lenses that they are actually in our budget. I don't own any of the Moment lenses. What I do own is the Moondog Labs anamorphic lens.
I love them.
It's a gorgeous lens.
Well, and I love the company too.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But they like that lens alone can really elevate the work. And so like, and they're more affordable than lenses on other cameras, So like, I would much rather spend $200 on this lens than a couple grand on, like mobile filmmaking is making it accessible for the everyday person who is an enthusiast or or that is their passion, but it's making it accessible for everyone to be a filmmaker.
Well, what I'm also looking forward to is like you and the other people that I've met, the other filmmakers from the LA area,
Sure.
as you start sharing this with other filmmakers in the LA area, that when we have our film festivals and networking events and things like that, that they'll sort of like San Diego filmmakers who go to LA, right?
Yeah.
That they'll be willing to come over here so that they can network with mobile filmmakers
From other.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
because I think they learn from each other. They
Mm-hmm.
network with each other, and knowing that they're close to each other, and the filmmakers even here from San Diego, if you guys can all network together,
Yeah.
this could create a nicer hub for mobile filmmaking, which is right here in the heart of the
Southern
filmmaking.
California.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are two locations that bring. I mean, you've been to San Diego before. The things that you can go from the sand dunes to make Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
to the beaches.
Absolutely, it's a completely different landscape.
Yeah.
And that's the joy of California in general. Like if there's mobile filmmakers up in the Bay Area, like that's also a completely different landscape.
Oh gosh, the forests there too.
Yeah, I mean Vegas, like that's a completely. So it's amazing that this area has such a vastly different landscape that we can continue to play and explore with and collaborate on.
Definitely. Just having people like you right there in LA. It's pretty incredible, and I think you're good people, and I like to see
I think you're good people.
Yeah. Well, I like to see you succeeding, and it's almost like watching people blossom in a way.
Sure.
People grow.
Yeah.
And you see films sometimes and you're going, that's good. That's fun. That's cool,
Yeah.
and then you see the progress in each film.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that your first film was not as good as your second film.
Oh, yeah.
And now that your third film is going to be way better. I mean, even the trailer, just by the trailer itself, it already looks.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the best I've done on one of my projects, and I recognize that. Like, and I think that's what you learn though as a filmmaker is that like you're constantly researching. Like, I spend a lot of time researching lighting, and figuring out how to better light my sets. And so like, I think that from each film is going to be a progression.
Yeah, most definitely. It's very inspiring. It really is. It's really inspiring. I mean, when I knew you were working on for our listeners on mobilefilmstories.com, we have a panel, a smartphone filmmaking panel. It's a 2-part series, and Levi is on the first one, part 1, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I think it was the first one. I don't remember which part it was, but I know that like I was there with Ryan and
yes, it was the first one because Brandy was on the second one. Inga Vosk.
Yeah, Inga Vosk was in mine. Yep.
Yeah, and she for our listeners, she won the best feature film in 2020. And so anyway.
And I will say, before we go on, but I guess for me though, I would say that like I was very, because I remember having a conversation with you after the last festival, the 2020 festival.
Yeah.
And you were like, maybe a feature film is next. And I was like, oh,
Right.
That's funny. Like I was like, I can't see that happening yet. And
listeners, you'll meet drug pushers and you'll meet feature mobile film pusher right there.
And Susie's one of those, the mobile film pusher. But yeah, I was intimidated by it, but then like I think between me feeling isolated and wanting to tell this story, and then even like Inga and Ryan, because they both made a feature film, on their
Mm-hmm.
phone. I was like, you know what? I think my team is ready for this challenge, you know? And so like that's kind of part of the
And
inspiration as
for
well.
Inga, it was her very first film
Yeah.
experience.
Girl, come out swinging. Like I was like, sit down. Like for this to be your first project, how dare you?
It was done so, and so
Yeah.
it's like you see it like a movie, and then you just say, well, that's it.
Insane.
I'll
Insane.
make it like a movie, and
Yeah.
then next thing you know, you made a movie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was insane. I was just like the fact that was her first thing. I was like, God, like
I know,
what an
right?
amazing
Oh,
like
well, you want to hear something? Wow, I can't even talk. I got all excited. The feature film winner, the best feature film this year.
uh-huh.
Jennifer Zhang. She shot the entire feature film on her iPhone during isolation. It's a narrative film.
Ooh.
She acted in it.
Ooh.
She wrote it. And get this, I'm about to slap myself here. Uh-huh. She edited the entire feature film on her phone.
That's amazing. She edited it. Wow.
She sat there with like, can you imagine? I mean, like, talk about anxiety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I do have apps that I use on my phone that help with editing, but I don't do the full editing on the phone. Like I go on my computer and I use Final Cut. Like that's insane.
She used an app that she found that was for editing little videos on social media.
Wow, that's impressive. That's
and
insane.
It had all the basics that she needed.
That's amazing.
She's incredible. And by the way, she lives over there where you live, and she's coming here.
Cool.
So you guys will need to do a little 1-hour road trip over here together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I just think it's incredible. I know there are a lot of people who are skeptical about it, but I keep meeting more and more people who are more open to it. And I just wanted to get your opinion to see if I was thinking about this in the right way, because you're deep into that. I mean, there in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like even on this project on paralysis, before we even launched the campaign, before we even did any of that, one of the things that I chose to do was I did a questionnaire that people could answer for a chance to win a $20 gift card. And it included questions like, what's your favorite scary movie? Like just a bunch of different questions about like horror stuff. Like we did a hashtag challenge, like whoever won the hashtag challenge, that's who would get the gift card. And that became the official hashtag for our film,
Nice.
which is hashtag sweet screams. Yes. But one of the questions that I asked is, would it bother you to watch a feature film with the knowledge that it was filmed on an iPhone or on a mobile phone? And then one of the other questions was, have you seen any of these films? And it was a list of films that have been made on an iPhone or a mobile film. And I think we had 40 or 50 people do the questionnaire. Only one person said that it would bother them. No, everybody else was like, I do not care. What matters to me is the story, And so I think that audiences they don't care what it's filmed on. Most of the time now, people are watching things on their phones, so like the giant screen, which is I still prefer watching things on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do too.
I'm not nipping that in the bud. Like I love
giant
going
screen, nice speakers.
Absolutely. But yeah, but the reality is like the audiences don't care. Like A, the quality's improved, but B, like it's just about the story. So tell a compelling story and the audience will come,
Yeah, I still think that the story needs to, in order to get the full effect of the story, you still need a larger screen. But that's,
but
everybody has their own.
I'm there. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, 100%, that I can't go wrong with that. Well, what else? Okay, now listen, let's give our listeners, because just in case they forget about the notes or they can't see their notes. Because, Apple, if you're on Apple Podcast, they've changed everything now. So you can't read the notes there. But you know that you can go to SBP Podcast.studio And the notes will be there on episode 102. Wow. You're episode 102.
That's impressive. Congratulations to you.
You're like beyond the 101 Dalmatians.
I'm the 102 Dalmatian.
So let's give them some places where they can follow you.
Sure. Do you want me to, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, I want
Okay.
you to.
Okay. So we are on Instagram and on Facebook. You can literally just search Paralysis the Film, and we should pop up on both. You can also just do www.facebook.com/Paralysis the Film, and that's where our social medias are. Or you can check out our Seed and Spark campaign. All you have to do is go to the Seed and Spark website, and they have a little search bar. You can type in Paralysis, and we are the only film titled Paralysis.
Wow.
And there you can see all the perks and incentives that we offer if you contribute. But you can also see our pitch video, and then if you go to the updates, you can see the full teaser as well.
You can also probably do a Google search and put Paralysis Levi Austin
Does it work?
Morris.
I've never.
You'd be surprised at how much. I mean, that's how I search. Even I forget which article, like on Medium, for example, right?
Okay.
So I go on Google, and I'll say, I know I wrote an article for this podcast or that podcast, and I literally just put in Medium, right? SBP Podcast, and then the name of the person. That was my guess, and it comes up. Top
Interesting.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just YouTubed it, and Paralysis comes up as the top video. So if you Googled Paralysis Levi Austin Morris, it's going to be the first thing.
See? I'm a whiz.
You are.
But not the cheese in a can type.
Although that's also delicious.
Yuck. Not for me.
I'm from Minnesota, the land of the cheese. So any form, give us real cheese, give us fake cheese. We just want cheese. So, yeah.
All right. What is the other one that you have? You have the Instagram.
Yes. And so both Instagram and Facebook have the same. It's just searching Paralysis the Film. And we will be the only thing that pops up. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else can we say? What else would you like to say? What are some of how can we entice people to go and help fund you? What are some of the goodies?
Sure. We've got a lot of really fun perks. Some of them are specific, like if you're a horror movie fan, one of the things that we're doing is we Photoshop you into a scene from your favorite horror film. And so
it doesn't hurt, does it?
It does not hurt. Even if you're the one getting killed, it's kind of fun. But more often than not, we tend to make the person we're photoshopping in the killer because it makes it more fun. But so that's one of them. Some of the more fun actual like physical perks are we have a Haggerty Ann doll, which is kind of a takeoff of the Raggedy Ann doll. The sort of the creature in our movie is the old hag. That's what is the sleep paralysis demon. Throughout history, and this is actual research that I've done, throughout history, most people who experience sleep paralysis see a woman sitting on their chest, and she's been referred to as the old hag. And so she's the old hag, and so we're creating cute little plushie dolls. And honestly, they're just adorable little plushie dolls that don't cost that much for us, and then we make them into cute little terrifying dolls for you. And that comes with a personal story of how that doll came to haunt you, the backer. And so like if you contribute money, that story will be personalized to you, and it will not match anybody else's story. And so yeah, we're just doing fun things like that. Our lowest tier one is $15, but you can contribute lower than that if you can't give 15.
How can you
and
go lower than that? I mean, that's like the price of a fish taco at this
point. I mean, you're not wrong, but like some people don't have a lot of money, and so like if you contribute 5 or 10, like that's fine.
But at least you're a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you get to be a part of all the updates and everything. But with the $15 one, you actually, once the film is complete, you will get it's because it's the price of a movie ticket. You'll get to see the film. We like once it's complete, obviously. We're gonna make it available on a password protected thing for people to view once it's done. And so that's the lowest tier, and you also get like a special shout out. But yeah, like that's just some of the fun perks. We've got other things, like a share the scare, which is like a video, like a personalized video. You get to tell us who you want it personalized for. And it's just like a little video that like starts really sweet, and like your friend's gonna be like, oh, this is really nice, and then obviously it's gonna scare the crap out of them at the end of it. So it's one of those things. Yeah,
You're
so it's
having
just
so much fun with
honestly,
this.
it like we sat down and we talked about all the perk ideas, and like there's so many fun ideas that didn't make it, and some that did make it, and like one of the team, our producer, was like, what if we did like a share the movie night, where it's like we send them like little candy, like movie candy, with like a DVD from like Walmart or something, like a horror movie. And like we realized, well, that's cutting into the expenses too much, or like not the expenses, but like the production costs, like, because that all costs money. So we're doing things that like we can afford to do but are still fun and engaging for the audience. So
Yeah, because garage sales filled with boxes of DVDs are not.
yeah. Yeah, you don't know,
They're not a
don't know
thing
what.
anymore.
Yeah. Although I have been going to quite a few estate sales now that COVID is over.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's so
feel for
funny.
people. Well, all right. So is there anything that you would like to say? I really do. Lastly, actually, right now,
Mhm.
would like for you to say something to help inspire our listeners,
Sure.
because I know that we just explained the whole process, and it may
Yeah.
feel like it's overwhelming to some people, but I think if they listen to the podcast and make notes of each step,
Yeah.
it's doable.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, to inspire, honestly, I'm gonna say just do it. Like the film that got into the International Mobile Film Festival. Did I say that right? I don't know if I
You
did. No.
totally said it right. I'm smiling and
Oh,
grinning.
good. I'm so happy because like after I said it, I was like, God, did I screw that up?
No, it's a long one.
Yeah. So the 90 seconds to live, I didn't have any lighting. I didn't have anything. I literally just had my phone and the inspiration, And so for that film, it's just a story I wanted to tell. And I thought it up, and we shot it, And so like the lessons will come as you do, but don't go into it wanting to have everything figured out. Go into it knowing that you're going to make mistakes. Go into it knowing that you're going to fail. Go into it knowing that you're going to have fun. That like you're going to learn, that like you're going to be like, "Oh, next time I got to do this," and learn those lessons. But like just do it. Like if all you have is your phone, just do it. You can do sound later. You can do an underscore later. There's plenty of websites that offer free music. You can build your network later, but like right now, do the work so that you can inspire yourself and inspire other people to want to work with you.
Yeah, and learn from it,
And
because
learn from it. Absolutely.
you don't like what you shot, just delete it. Start over.
Absolutely. And do it again, because it's the mobile phone. It doesn't take that, like plenty of times I've gone back and I've been like, yeah, we're reshooting this, like, so absolutely.
Yeah, have fun,
Yep.
definitely,
Absolutely.
and build a family. Build
Yes.
a
Build
family
a
like
family.
Levi did,
Yep.
because that's
Yep.
always going to be more important, and you grow together
Yep.
and you learn together, and then you put out something pretty amazing together. I haven't even seen your film yet, but again, guys, please go and watch the trailer, and you'll see why this is so exciting. And make sure that you follow Levi and his entourage.
My crew.
The crew.
Yeah.
They do stuff that's pretty fun. I watched your review of
Oh,
the
The
Insidious.
Conjuring.
Yeah,
The
the
Conjuring
movie.
3. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The con. But I found that to be so fun. It's like
Good.
I want to
Yeah.
go to the next one.
Yes. Come on
So,
down. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, guys, I hope you're inspired. I hope you follow Levi. And Levi, you've got another ticket left for when you finish that film.
Yes.
to come back and maybe bring a few guests with you.
Absolutely. I mean, there were people in my team last time that were going to come, so it was a huge bummer that worked out the way it did.
Well, you can bring like half of LA with you. I'd be happy.
I'll work on that. I'll see if I can convince some people. Yeah.
All right. Say goodbye to our listeners.
All right. Bye, everybody.